I got to say, you're the first guest that I can say welcome back to. Like, you're the first person that has ever been on the podcast twice. So cheers on that.
There you go.
Welcome back,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mike Mazur.
And like I said, I was actually more nervous this time than the first time. I don't know why. Doesn't make it. You think it'd be easier.
It's probably because we already talked about, like, your story, your journey, the things that you've done and everything. And now it's like we can get into the real nitty gritty of some real estate stuff, some investing, flipping, the NAR things, and so many things that are directly related to the industry rather than about your story or my story directly. It's like our knowledge.
So now you gotta think about stuff.
You got to show that knowledge.
Yeah. I always feel like an idiot on camera too, so. But I am an idiot, so it works out.
No, I'm one of the biggest idiots that I know, man, and I know a lot of dumb people. But no, so really, I think that is a great place to start. Like with the NAR lawsuit and everything. Like, what are your general thoughts on this whole thing?
I mean, in all honesty, I really haven't seen much of a difference.
Yeah.
If anything, it helps. I don't really want to give away my secret of why I think it helps.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
I don't know, man.
Come on, that's why you're on here. Give us the gold, baby.
But I do think it helps because I don't think people are paying attention to some. I'll put it like this. I don't think people are paying attention to the contracts being put in front of them right now when it comes to the commission. Not necessarily buyers, but writing up a contract to send in for a seller. I don't think agents are paying full attention to certain aspects of it. And I'm going to take advantage of it where I can and see. It hasn't happened yet, but...
So you're saying listing agents aren't reading word for word when a buyer submits?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically. Not all. There's tons of great agents. I'm not bashing that at all. But there are a few I feel like aren't paying attention to some of the language that's been rewritten in all of our contracts. Me in particular, like, I got so used to doing contracts that we just had forever... You know, and I have 3 states to try and keep track of. So once they made all these changes, I actually really go through and like fine tooth comb every kind of contract now to make sure I'm really understanding it, just because of how they rewrote things a little bit.
So just thinking through that, I'm sure this is rhetorical, and but the par form has changed since August.
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah,
they all changed.
Okay, because I'm still probably using a par form from like 2021. Okay, you know,
you guys have it a little different, I think, though, maybe with like wholesale type stuff.
Yeah, but so that's the irony is, you know, some of the MLS offers that we're doing through the software and everything. It's like, dude, our par form is a template from 2021, so I think I'm going to need to update that.
Yeah, might want to reread it again real quick too. It's not a lot. There's little things, but I feel like people are maybe missing them. So I'm trying to take advantage of it and stuff.
Yep.
But beyond that, like the NAR stuff, I feel like it's been beaten dead at this point. Nothing's really changed that much. Yeah, you could have a buyer sign the agreement before you go show them. I had maybe one buyer so far push back on it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, we'll do a one-time showing agreement. Like, you know, I forget who it is. There's someone that started doing the agreements. I think they do them for like 5 or 7 days, and then it's an auto renewal unless the buyer says differently.
Okay.
So it doesn't lock them in for, 60 days, whatever it might be. They were just doing like this auto renew thing that they wrote. I guess they got language from someone to put it in there. I was like, that's not a bad idea.
Some creative way to...
I haven't had pushback on it. I go through it. I make sure everybody understands. This is where we're at. This is what we're going to do.
Yep.
See what happens from there.
Yep. See, for us, like on the wholesale side of everything, it's like what everybody's bitching about now. Oh, I have to reach out to the listing agent and see what the commission is and everything. It's like, for us, that's what everything has always been in wholesale anyway.
Yeah.
A agent reaches out to us for their investor client and they say, are you paying commission?
Yeah.
And our answer was, and now even more so, it's relevant. It's like, well, yes, we typically do. However, we're going to look at the net offer at the end of the day. So if I have an offer from you for $100,000 and you want commission, and I have an offer from this other buyer over here for $100,000 with no commission, which do you think I'm taking? So it's like, that's the same way that the entire industry is going to work now, because even if you call a listing agent for 123 Main Street that's listed for $500,000 and it's like, hey, are you paying a buyer agent commission? And they say, no. It's like, well, if I bring my buyer's offer to you and it's at, I'm terrible at mental math, I guess $515,000, will you pay me buyer agent commission? The answer is going to be yes, you know?
Yeah. No, like I said, I haven't really seen a difference too much. I see a lot of people complaining about it and stuff. I don't know. It's just another form I got to fill out. It sucks. It's more paperwork. It's annoying. I'm bad enough with paperwork, but when I'm uploading all my stuff to our site, to Compass's site and stuff, I kind of know what it is. If I'm missing something, usually it's not too much to just go get that signed or redone or whatever. It's not a lot. So
Yep.
But yeah, definitely having the license in 3 states, all the contracts are like redone, and every contract is Jersey's different from Delaware, different from PA.
Yep.
So I was saying to someone the other day, once you go through doing Jersey and PA though, doing Delaware, it's like being Neo in the Matrix. It's like so easy. It's not a hard contract,
dude.
It just isn't.
Yeah.
Like, am I wrong about that?
Well, I don't think I've ever done a Delaware state agreement of sale form. Jersey I have, and Pennsylvania I have, but all the stuff that we do in Delaware is always wholesale. Actually, that's not true. I've sold flips in Delaware, so I should know what it looks like, but I don't remember.
You just sign and hope for the best. Maybe you should read it now a little bit.
Maybe. A lot of our agreements I don't even look at now. I just have Jess kind of go through and sign. Make sure
I'm sure
that,
she's watching over for you.
Hopefully. Knock on wood. Gonna have to look into that.
Yeah. But
so I know that you hate Bright MLS. Why do you hate Bright so much?
They fucking forcing us to do everything possible so with Bright, like I feel like they kind of halter the imaginative side of things, the creativeness to deals that you can do sometimes. And maybe I'm wrong, but sometimes I feel like with all the rules and regulations, it's not necessarily best for the consumer, both buyer and seller side. I feel like there's too much regulation on it, and it's just not good for both sides.
Yep.
I can't think of an example in particular.
I can think of a perfect example.
All right, let's do it.
So I had an acquisitions guy that was working for me. This was maybe 6-9 months ago. And he previously was a retail agent in Jersey. And he had this portfolio from this guy that he was selling all the properties. So I think it was 5 different properties or something. And he had sold all of them but 2. And it was actually, ironically enough, I found the property that he was selling for this guy, even though he was working here and I saw him every single day. I found this property that he had listed with this guy on our website because it showed that it might be like a decent flip. And I say to him, I'm like, Matt, I think we can get something done with that. And we're going to have to get a little bit creative to get it done. And I'm probably going to mess up some of the details on it. But it was basically like, I think he had it listed for $250 and it was not moving. It was an old bar that had a duplex on top or something. So it was zoned commercial or mixed use or something, but nobody wanted it. Right. So I knew a guy that I thought might have some interest anyway, like a single buyer that I had in the back of my mind. I'm like, dude, I think if we can lock this up at 180, we'll be able to get this done. And ultimately, he talked with his seller. Seller was totally cool with the 180. He was thrilled. And since Matt had this deal under contract as a listing through his brokerage, basically we assigned this deal, and I forget what we were going to make on it, $20,000-$30,000, whatever. Who cares? His seller didn't care either. He had this conversation with his seller. I am working with this other wholesaler. He's going to buy it for 180. He's going to sell it for more. You're cool with that? He's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, just get this thing off the books, right? So long story short, I guess it's not short anymore, but
never is.
Basically, we had this deal done. Everybody was on board, and his brokerage was like, "Oh, we can't do this." What do you mean we can't do this? It's cut and dry. This is so simple. The documentation is so clear, so transparent. The seller could not be more clear that yes, he had a listing agreement with the agent. It is being sold to us, and we are assigning it to an end buyer, and everything's transparent. You can even see who the end buyer is. You can see everything, right? The brokerage added so much bullshit that it almost killed the deal. And it's like they made us go back to the seller and basically have him sign, like they made up agreements and everything for him to say that yes, everything has been fully disclosed to me. Like, it was insane how above and beyond they went.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're going to kill this deal for this guy. Like, the buyer's getting flaky and everything because here we are 6 weeks into the thing. We should have closed 3 weeks ago. And the brokerage is trying to, like, derail the whole thing. So, no, that's not acting in the best interest of the consumer. The consumer is saying, yes, Mike,
both sides are
please
good.
get this deal done.
And they're only doing it. It might not necessarily been the brokerage's fault. They're just trying to abide by, Bright's rules of things.
For sure,
unfortunately.
for sure.
And got to watch themselves because brokerages are a
They don't want
huge
to get
target.
sued, and
they're
I
a
get
huge
it.
target now with everything. They just are.
That's the thing.
But yeah, that goes to what I'm saying. I think that you keep piling all this stuff on the people. You make it impossible to go do a deal and get something done and have everybody be happy.
Yep.
And to your point too, because people are shady about stuff too sometimes. But as long as everybody is transparent with a lot of this stuff, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yep.
If everybody's just like, yeah, we're good. Yep, we see that they're gonna make. I don't care if they make $100,000 on the deal, as long as we got our 180 or whatever it might have been.
Yep.
Who cares? They're happy. You're
Most
happy.
of the time, people will be upset and they will count the pockets of everyone else.
Yeah.
But if you're able to logically explain to them at the end of the day, hey, look, you had told me that this number, this $180,000 or whatever it is what matters to you. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Because Mike has resources or connections or ability or skill that you don't have.
Yeah.
So he is able to make money out of that you can't.
Well, and that's funny too. You talk about like skill and abilities and stuff, and I think that separates a lot of agents too. I do think sometimes this is going to sound horrible. Well, at least for me as an agent to say this, but sometimes I think wholesalers might be better at doing real estate deals than agents. I think as a wholesaler, and I work with a lot of you guys, you just can be more creative sometimes with things. You don't have the restraints, as I go back to talking about what they kind of put on you.
Yep.
As an agency, you're able to be more creative. You're able to say, shit, okay, there's a cloud on this title for this issue.
Yeah.
There's a workaround. Let's figure out how to get there, whether we
Yep.
do an exemption, whether there's escrow money held, whatever it might be. There's always a workaround. I just went through this with the deal we just closed on the other day where there was an issue with title. And we were able to work around it. The title company I work with, and there's not too many anymore, I feel like, but they work with wholesalers a lot. They were able to figure out how to get around it just based on what they've done. All legal, all signed, all legal documentation. But it's like sometimes people just give up. Nope, can't do it. Too hard.
Oh, yeah.
Don't even want to call anybody, do anything. Cloud and title can't close.
Yep.
It's like, no, there is a way. There's always a way.
Yeah.
So the one investor I learned more about real estate from one of my investors than I think any brokerage anywhere I've ever been or done. And he was an agent for years. And he was also a, not an acquisitions manager. What was it? He worked at the banks. Oh, what the hell was he doing? I forget what it was called. Something like an acquisitions manager or something. I can't think of the name for it right now. But he worked in a lot of these like short sales and stuff like that, and like the bank owned stuff. He was like the guy that the REO agent would talk to about things. So he just has a wealth of knowledge of different things. And any deal I've ran into trouble with his on sometimes, he's like, well, what if we just do this? I'm like, are we allowed to do this? He's like, yeah. He's like, I've done it before. I'm like, okay. And then I'll present that idea, and I've learned many different little techniques over time with him. Present that idea to the buyer's agent or seller's agent, depending.
Yep.
And they're like, never thought about that. I'm like, I didn't either. I got it from my buyer or seller.
Yep.
Let's see if that works. And then we present it to title agency or the lawyers or whatever, and they're like, yeah, we can do that. That will work.
Yep.
But sometimes
and without that, it's like it would have died. Yep.
Yeah, but sometimes you do run in. I just feel like there's not many title agencies that want to work with wholesale deals sometimes.
And I get that because
or they're getting lower and lower. That used to be like anybody did. Now it just seems like it's less and less and less.
Well, I think now it's kind of seesawing back the other direction because a lot of title companies are like, oh shit, our volume is down significantly.
Yep.
You'll send us business, we'll take it.
We'll make it work.
I would say pulling a number out of my ass, but like the average wholesale deal from a title perspective is probably 10 times more hairy than the normal residential retail transaction. 10 times.
Yeah.
It's like, there's estates, there's different heirs, everybody hates each other. The title usually has many things pop up, liens, judgments, all this crap. That doesn't happen on a normal house sale. You know?
Dude, the estate ones are the harder ones to do. The one I just did in Jersey for someone in Williamstown, we thought we're all good. And she's like, I'm the owner of the estate. You know, she had all of her paperwork and stuff. Well, when title started working on it, they found there was 13 other people on title with it. I'm like, what are we gonna do? And I call and tell her. She's like, oh yeah, those are all like aunts, relatives. Out of the 13 people, only it was her and like I think her brother or something were the only ones alive. So the other ones are dead. So we had to go through the process of getting all the death certificates, all this stuff, putting it together.
Yeah, that can make it worse because then you have the descendants of the deceased.
And then we had to make sure it went through probate properly and stuff and everything else. And then there was like, I don't know, I forget what it was. I want to say it was like 50 pages of judgments and liens that had to be cleared through. And we got through it, but it took a while, a lot of work to get through it. We did do it.
Yep.
And it was funny because we were with one title company. That's who the buyer chose. So, you know, I had the seller. Buyer chose X title company. I forget who it was. All said and done, we finally get close. And like our underwriters don't feel comfortable, you know, insuring this or whatever it was because of this one issue. I forget what it was, something small. So I remember talking to the other one that I started using more now, and they're like, "Yeah, send it over. Let me look through it." They were able to get it done. They figured it out in like a week. They're like, "This isn't a big deal. We just need this letter from this person, a letter from, you know, that person, and as long as we have that, we're good to go."
Interesting.
So, yeah, it was fun.
It's wild how that works out. Like the craziest one that we ever had was I think there were 6 heirs of the deceased family member or whatever, and basically my assistant literally, because none of them drove, and a whole mess. They all hated each other, and you know, all this mess. And yeah, basically we drove around and set up appointments with every single one of them individually, just signed docs prior to settlement. Then for settlement, we went to each one of them individually, and you know, it's like it's what you got to do to get a deal done. Sometimes,
well, like so for instance, that one it was a lower amount. It wasn't a lot, and I was like, man, I really put in a lot of work for not very much, but. As I was telling another agent today, I was like, I actually enjoy the harder deals. I don't know if I'm just a glutton for punishment, which I have been my whole life, so that kind of makes sense. But I actually like the harder deals because I feel like you learn more out of them.
Fair.
For next time when you run into that. Or another agent is like, man, I had this really hard deal. I'm not sure what to do. And you talk a little bit more, and you're like, oh, I just went through something like that last year. This is what we did, and see. And then sometimes it helps them.
I get your point, but I have a mixed bag of opinions about that because I would also argue that any issue that you encounter on an individual deal, the likelihood that same scenario happens again, very fucking slim.
Well, yeah, no, I agree there because every deal is like a Rubik's Cube and they're all different, right? But I feel like you get more insight sometimes of how to think outside, going back to what I was saying, how to kind of think outside the box. Like, okay, this isn't going through the perfect way that we want to do. There's this one little issue here. I had another deal over here that wasn't the same issue, but this is what we did. I wonder if we can apply that here.
Yeah.
That's I get what you're saying, though, 100%. Because you're right. Every deal is absolutely different.
Yep.
Every single time. And you deal with different emotions and everything else. So that's, I think too with real estate, the other thing, you should be good at like bullshitting small talk.
Yeah.
Not in like lying that people are doing anything, but just getting through things.
Well, that's half of the issue with anything. It's not even just real estate related, right? It's communication is the most important thing, hands down, bar none. You know, like you have to be able to communicate, especially if you're solving issues. And in what we're talking about with real estate, it's like being able to communicate. You were telling me before we started rolling about a short sale that you just negotiated in 4 weeks. And it's like the way that you did that was number one, by being persistent and dripping on them. But number two, being able to communicate with another human and getting them to care about what your needs are. Yeah. Like if you can't do that, you don't get something done.
Yeah, 100%. So, and that's where it goes back to the service industry thing that I said. Especially maybe not serving as much, but like bartenders and stuff, you have to learn how to do small talk, especially if your bar's slower and you only have you're not just going to stand there and wipe down the same glass over and over.
Right.
You got to talk to people, and everybody's different. And you got to involve every different way and whatever it might be. So I learned a lot just from doing that stuff.
What do you think the most helpful or impactful thing that you've learned through your real estate career is?
That's me. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Probably not sticking your head in the sand and hiding from a problem and just kind of tackling it straight on. Because in the past, especially in the beginning, and I'll admit it, like issues would come up and I was like, well, I don't really know what to do. So maybe I'll wait a day to respond to that email or wait a day to call this person or whatever it was. And making that mistake, I learned real quick that no, you can't. You got to tackle it.
It's probably not going to get better.
No, it never does. It never did. It never did. So I learned the easiest way to do it: pick up the call. Pick up the phone, make that difficult call to the buyer, the seller, whoever, and just put it out there. And then let them complain or yell or scream or whatever. And sometimes that happens. And I've dealt with that sometimes where it happens. A seller might scream at you, a buyer screams at you. Not usually your fault, but they just want to vent to someone. You let them do that. Then maybe you wait a day and they call you back. Hey, yeah, I'm sorry about yesterday. I just wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't either. It's not an easy phone call to make.
Yep.
But I would say that's probably the biggest thing I learned from starter real estate till now is not just to hide from it and go head on into it.
So what's an example like of where somebody would be really upset about something? I'm just trying to think through it. Like you were under contract with your seller was under contract with a buyer, then inspections and they're pulling out, or like
that could be
what
one.
Are we talking about?
Appraisal's always the fun one to deal with. Yeah. Hey, we're under contract for 400. The appraisal came back at 360. And this is going back to before people started doing appraisal gap coverage and all that stuff. And that's the flip side of that one too. But yeah, telling a seller, hey, it's not going to happen. We can try and challenge it, and sometimes you can make it get a little bit better. I learned that too one time. Where had a house under appraised, seller's like, absolutely not doing it. Deal fell apart. Told me to put it back on and raise the price $10,000.
Interesting.
Okay, it's in Pennsville. Raise the price $10,000. Against what I thought was logical to do. And sure enough, week later, another buyer comes in, full price offer. So we were short $13,000 the first time. I forget the exact number. I want to say it was like we were listed at $250, and the appraisal came in at like $237, something like that.
Okay.
And no one was budging or doing anything, so it fell apart. So we raised it to like $260. Like I said, I don't forget the number exactly. We raised it to $260. Buyer came in literally a week later, put it under contract. I was up front with the agent. I said, honestly, I don't know. Let's see what happens here. Sent out the appraiser, appraised at $260. This is like 3 weeks after the first appraisal came in light. And it wasn't an FHA one, so it wasn't stuck with the property. Both were conventional buyers, so it wasn't as big of a deal. But that was almost where I learned that appraisals almost aren't worth the fucking paper they're written on.
They're not, dude.
Like, and people are like hard up on it sometimes. I'm like, you're going by one person's opinion. I get that there's numbers and stuff, and
of course
you can put together.
Of course, but numbers can be skewed.
And when that happened, I noticed. So what was that? A $23,000 difference, between the $13,000 light it came in last time, and then the $10,000 more we did.
Yep.
We had a $23,000 swing in a matter of not even 30 days.
Yep.
What's that?
Mm-hmm.
Totally different houses in both appraisals too. And I'm like, what the hell happened here?
Yep.
And that's when this guy was like, he was an investor. That's when he was like, I've seen this happen 1,000,000 times. He's like, I always tell my agents, if it's a bad appraisal, he wants us to challenge it and do stuff.
Yep.
So he's usually been right too, which is weird.
Dude, the worst appraisal. Annoying. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I had a property in Brigantine that I flipped a couple years ago, and that appraisal, I'll mess up the numbers, but it was off by like $130,000 of what I thought the value should have been. And I went back to the appraiser, and I had done a bunch of loans through this lender before, and I don't even know if it was the same appraisal company or not. I guess not. Whatever, who cares? But I basically said to my lender, I was like, this appraisal is bullshit. Like, there was literally a house directly behind mine, same size, same house, same footprint, same everything, that they didn't have like in their report. And I'm like, they're off by this much.
Yeah.
But I was crunched for time, so I couldn't, order a new appraisal if I wanted to. I had to close or my seller was going to walk. So I just closed on it. And I just had to bring the extra money. Luckily, it's very rare that I'm liquid, you know, very, very rare. But I had cash at the time, and I was able to bring the extra whatever I had to, $60,000, $70,000 into the deal, closed on it. And super quick rehab anyway. It was like a 6-week rehab, and I think I sold for, you know, even $30,000 or $40,000 more than I had thought. So at that point, the appraisal was off by $170,000. And my lender was like, man, I knew you were right. And that appraisal was BS, but you know, there was nothing we could do. Sorry, we couldn't get you more money. Like, they were apologetic about it, but
it's like with anything, you can only, you know, lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink sometimes, whatever that saying is.
Yep.
And it's the same with that stuff. Like, it's not always the agent's fault, the lender's fault, whatever. Like,
there's so many moving pieces, man. There's so many people involved.
There is. That's why I like it too. It's very spontaneous sometimes. I'm a very spontaneous person, so I do that a lot. But and people think it's crazy sometimes. Like, because, for instance, I go on these trips sometimes, and I'll get like my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, meet me at the airport at 5 a.m. and she doesn't even know where we're going. And I made that decision 4 hours prior.
I love it.
And we'll just go somewhere. We tried one time. We haven't made success. We're going to do it again probably, but we have tried once. We went to the airport, Ubered up to Philadelphia airport. It was late at night though. And we walked down to each airline and be like, what's your next flight out? You know, we want to take the next flight out. I don't care if it's to Pittsburgh. I don't care if it's to Nebraska.
That's cool.
Unfortunately though, if you go there at like 11 o'clock at night and do it, there's really no flights till the next morning anyway.
Yeah.
So we didn't get anywhere. I can remember getting all the way down, I think Spirit, which I can't stand, but then we got down to Spirit, and the guy was like, "Are you guys serious right now?" We're like,
"You just want to go somewhere."
He's like, "You don't have a suitcase or anything?" I was like, "No, we'll be fine. We're gonna go for like 2 days." He's like, "Where?" I said, "Where do you got next?"
That's so
He's like,
cool.
"What if I had one to Alaska?" I was like, "As long as it's within my limits of what I want to, you know." That was the other part too, like.
I don't want to spend $20,000.
You know, hey, keep it under like $600 for 2 round trip tickets. Like, let's stay within like some whatever reason here. But I was like, dude, if you had one to Alaska and let's go, let's put us on there and go.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're gonna try and do it again sometime, I think.
Dude, that's super cool.
I love doing stuff like that.
That would give my wife so much anxiety. Like, she is the planner and I am not. I just did something like that in April. Like, we had to put our dog down, and it sucked, you know, and that always sucks.
Yeah.
And I knew that the eclipse thing was coming up, and
I remember when you did that,
dude. I remember literally the night before. I was like, it'd kind of be cool to watch that in Canada, like Niagara Falls. How did I even come up with this idea?
You did that,
I don't know. I thought about that the night before, and I told my wife, I was like, tomorrow we're renting an RV and we're going to Canada. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, you can't do that. You know, you need to plan something like this. I'm like, I did. I just booked the RV on this thing, you know?
Do you ever come home sometimes and you're like, bought 4 more houses today? And she loses her mind?
She kind of gets mad. She used to get mad. She doesn't get mad anymore. Now she's just like, I don't even know what's going on half the time, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's how it's going to be in real estate. It's always going to be spontaneous like that. And you know that as well as anybody. Dude, those deals will come across your desk before, and you don't even see it coming. You're like, I got to buy it right now.
Got to do it.
I have to go buy this and close tomorrow on it.
Yep.
It's too good. Let's just go get it.
Yep.
I don't have the extra $100,000, but you go find it from somewhere.
Yep.
You know, and that is the other thing of real estate, and back to what I was saying is being creative, and sometimes you find that money. It's weird. Like, I can't come up with $10 sometimes, but if I had to come up with like 100, it would almost be easier.
Yeah.
I don't get that, but
it's crazy, man.
It's weird.
Yep.
Like, shit, I don't have $20, $10 for gas. Here's this deal though. I need $100,000. You go find it from somewhere.
It's easy.
Not easy, but
well, yeah. It's I don't know.
You know what I mean though. With it.
I do. I know exactly what you mean, dude. There's been times where it's like,
and other times you're like, I got it, no problem.
I have to close a deal in 5 days, and I need hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I don't have it, and I don't have it lined up, and I'm gonna figure it out, because if I have that much urgency that I want to push to close this thing in 5 days, it's a really good deal.
Yeah.
So any sort of investor, especially if I've worked with them in the past, they know me, they know my track record. They're like, well, this makes sense, and it's a logical, sound investment, and let's go. Let's do it, you know?
It's funny you say that, because I do have like 1 or 2 investors that they've worked with the same, you know, hard money lenders or private lenders for so long. that they don't even question. Like I remember I used to have to do like CMAs for them and like give them all the comps for stuff. And it's like after like their 20th deal, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get the loan from, you know, John Smith down the street or whatever that I've used for my other 20 deals. I'm like, all right, I'll start preparing stuff, and I'm like getting ready to prepare and get a phone call, and he's like, yeah, we're good. Like,
It's done.
He doesn't want the comps and all the stuff I used to have to do for him before. Nope. I'm like, okay.
Yep.
Because he's done every deal. He's always paid them back, even on the losing ones. He's made up the difference for whatever the interest might have been. It's usually never a lot, but it's happened once or twice.
Yep.
As you know, sometimes you open up a wall and there's more issues than you realize.
Sometimes, it's every fucking time with me, man.
So, yeah. I learned that one the hard way the one time with that Paulsboro one. And I didn't know about knob and tube wiring it and stuff like that. So didn't know to look for it. Came up. Still did good on the deal, but it was a $13,000 hit, I think, that I wasn't expecting.
It's a big deal, dude.
Yeah.
It's a very big deal.
I was like, oh, you can't insure this thing? You can't do anything? I'm like, shit. Guess I have to do it.
See, I really don't understand that fully, right? It's like, why can't... It's not that big of a deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many houses a year do you hear that burn down because of knob and tube wiring specifically?
Yeah.
It's like, it's been in that house for 80 years. It's been fine.
Yeah.
You know, so...
A lot of insurance companies are dropping people left and right places now for whatever stupid reason they come up with anymore.
It's true.
So it is making it harder and harder.
Insurance rates as a whole is a huge talking point, man. Like I can tell you for my building here, dude, my rates have like doubled in the past year.
Yeah.
A bunch of my rentals, maybe not quite doubled, but everything is up like 50, 60%.
Yeah. So it's almost like they're trying to get rid of people, and they do that on purpose.
Wild.
It's crazy. Speaking of which, I just heard this the other day. One of my investors' mom, actually, because she handles a lot of his paperwork and stuff. Great lady, but she told me, have you heard about this corporate transparency thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know anything about that. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I called my accountant today. I'm like, do I need to like be filing this? He's like, I'll take care of it for you. He's like, I was going to anyway. I was like, okay, what is it? He started telling me, and I'm like, this sounds horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. I
This
sat
sounds
through like
hurtful for smaller businesses, but okay.
Yep.
So yeah, I didn't know anything about it till the other day. She told me, and then I called him today and was just bullshitting with it, and he said the same thing. He's like, it's bullshit. He's like, it shouldn't exist. He's like, I think this is going to royally hurt businesses. It's going to put out some of their financial information. It's going to be easier for, leaks and stolen information that other people can use against that business. It takes away the competitiveness of it. So he was very anti it, but unfortunately, you can be anti something. It doesn't matter if that's what it is.
Yep.
It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
That sounds stupid. I'm like, how much is it going to cost me? For good? Like $200 to do it all or whatever, which not a huge issue, but still sucks. Like on top of all the other paperwork
Just
you
more
have to do.
crap that I have to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
So-
thing.
And every time you move, every time you do anything, you have to update it right away. And I saw it's like a $500 a day fine if you don't do some of this stuff.
yeah.
Like, it's wild.
I forget what the deadline is.
January, I believe he told me by January 1st, 2025, you have to have it done.
Really?
You have to have it filed and done. Said it doesn't take long, but I don't do any of that stuff really. I save all my stuff in like a QuickBooks type thing, you know. I probably should learn more about taxes. I'm definitely very ignorant when it comes to tax stuff. I've used the same guy for 20 years since I had the magazine, other businesses and stuff. I just trust him, I've never had an issue yet so far. I'm not always happy with what I have to pay, but I let him do his thing. He sends it to me. He's like, here, you got to review it. Make sure everything looks good. I'm like, dude, I have no clue what I'm even looking at right now. And there's like 80 pages, especially when you start adding in, flips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. Yeah, I gave you all my numbers through my QuickBooks thing. I have all the receipts and stuff and all the invoices.
Yep.
Sure, this looks great.
Yep. Yep.
Like, I wish I knew more about that stuff. They should teach it in school more, but.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I learned, like I was every year for 3 or 4 years when I first started flipping and everything, like when I would file, I would be unhappy with, to your point, like how much I had to pay. And it's like, I thought that it was wrong. And it's like, I thought we should have been able to take advantage of this or be able to, depreciate more of my rentals and like all this stuff. Right. And what I ultimately, so I bounced around from accountant to accountant for like 3 or 4 years in a row. And what I realized was that in order for my accountant to do what I wanted them to do with some of the more creative or advanced tax strategies or whatever, they all know all of these things, but they're not going to do the things that are maybe somewhat creative or something, not illegal in any way, shape, or form. But unless you tell them, this is what I want to take advantage of, and this is why I structured this in this way, you're not going to get the benefit. So you essentially have to tell them, and you don't know how you don't have to know how to do it, but it's like, this is what I want you to do, and this is what I want to look into, and this is how I want to structure things. But that all stems from you. They're not going to go out of their way to try to creatively figure out how do I save Mike as much as humanly possible on his return.
I don't know. My guy's been pretty good. We asked a lot of questions. When we had the magazine years ago, my business partner was way more into that type of stuff. He had asked like millions of questions over the decade that we had that and had done all that, So once, we dissolved that business and he moved back to Florida and I stayed up here and stayed with him. My guy, I think, just kind of kept going with a lot of that stuff.
I would argue that's probably easier, though. Like, real estate is where it gets complicated, man, because you have so many different loans and assets. Your balance sheet is fucking ridiculous sometimes, It's like just everything on a P&L side, and I don't really understand, corporate accounting super, super deep. But a P&L, very simple. And it's like a business like that where it's just, okay, well, we have a product and we have expenses and everything, and then we have sales. That's it. It's just like P&L. It's like, God, dude, that's simple. That's simple. And I didn't even graduate high school. That's simple,
You don't need to graduate high school. But it is different. I don't know. I do ask him questions from time to time about stuff because I'm unsure, and he's usually pretty good with like I was saying the other day, because everybody I know is in an LLC, and when I had started stuff, he's like, "No, we're going to do an S corp. He's like, it's going to be better for you." And he explained it to me. Can't remember what he explained exactly, but he said, "Do it."
Check with your accountant, people.
So don't go by me. But he told me do an S corp, not an LLC.
Yeah.
For everything.
Well, like, it would still be a LLC, but you're taxed as an S corp.
Yeah.
As opposed to an individual
whatever
or
he did.
C
I just
corp.
said, "Sure, Chris, go ahead."
Yep.
I don't know what to do. Send me the stuff. I'll write you your check. I'll write them their check, and I'll call it a day. So, but
I mean, my philosophy on all of that stuff is it's almost better. No, I'll say it is better to go into it naive and not worrying too much about it, because the other end of the spectrum is I spend all this time and energy researching everything about tax elections and, tax advantages and advanced tax strategies and all this bullshit. And you know what I'm not doing? Going out and making fucking money and getting good at my craft, getting good at my skill, and providing value.
Well, exactly. And it goes to real estate in general with realtors and stuff, with people that, don't want to use a buyer's agent anymore or something. Dude, sometimes it's more work than it's worth to just do it all yourself and try and do all the research than just focusing on, the end game of what you want to do.
Totally agree.
And I learned that too I'm doing work at my house right now, and I feel like I'm spending way too much time to put in new doors or... Dude, I did the easiest bathroom renovation ever. It should have been easy. I thought I was going to be done that thing in like 2-3 days maybe. It took me like 2 weeks.
I get it.
Just because I kept looking at, I went to Home Depot 40 times a day sometimes. I spent more money buying the goddamn tools to do it properly than if I just hired someone to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there watching YouTube videos and everything. Everything was done well, but it was like, because I wanted it to be, because this was my own like personal house now. It was just like buying all the tools. I should just pay someone to just do it. Would have been saved me time, effort.
Well, see, there's my issue all the time now, because it's like I probably have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of tools. So there's not many tools that I don't have. So it makes it very simple for me to be like, I'll just do it.
Yeah. Well, I guess you get to that point too where you have enough stuff now. Like I don't know. I bought a planer and a router. I use them for my doors. I don't know what else I'm ever going to use it for, but I have them now. So,
yeah, it's still though, it begs the question of like, is it worth your time though? Anyway, it's like you could go out and do another deal, and be able to make more money in that time spent.
Oh, exactly. Like with that bathroom project, I thought, I'll be done this in 3 or 4 hours. No problem. Probably took 36 hours.
Yeah.
All said and done. All the trips going to Home Depot or wherever to get the different things. And constantly like, fuck, I forgot this piece. Now I have to go back out and get that one, Ugh. But like I said, it goes back to I'm just a glutton for punishment with pretty much all of life. So
Me too, man.
I just learned to roll with it now at this point.
Me too. And my wife is probably the biggest victim of my inability. We'll call it time blindness. That's what they call it in the ADHD community, that time just doesn't exist in my world, Like I will often say, it doesn't matter whether I'm actually working on a flip or I'm here or wherever I'm at, I will often be on the phone and it's like, oh, I'm just wrapping up what I'm doing. I will be out of here in 10 minutes and I'll see you in a little bit, honey. Click. And she knows well enough to know at this point.
Later.
Yeah, it could be 10 minutes, but it also very well could be I don't get home until midnight. I'm very bad at it. Unfortunately, I've come to accept it, so it is what it is.
That's what I was getting at too. Like I've just come to accept a lot of my faults, and there's quite many, but I just kind of roll with it now. I try not to get angry about stuff anymore. I've been working on that a lot in the past year, I would say, especially, but just letting stuff, it is what it is sometimes.
Yep.
That's probably one of the most dangerous things you can hear someone say, because, they just don't give a fuck anymore. But, yeah.
It's an accurate statement. It's an accurate statement.
So when's Revamp going to launch the MLS?
Man. You're the first person to ask me that specifically, I
want a date.
A date. Oh my goodness.
To
my point, I'll tell you next month, and it'll be fucking 11 years. So
yeah. But if you kind of put it out, you could probably have 1,000 agents sign up in a week and pay a $100 fee. We'll say that would
maybe
that'd help get you the technology that you need for it.
That is true. That is true. that has been one of the biggest struggles. I know you said the other day
it's been that it's a lot more money to develop programming.
Oh my goodness,
than it is for any house flip you've ever done.
Way.
So I can't even imagine,
what. And ultimately, what I have done, what I have built so far, is like in the grand scheme of things, there's 550 different MLSs in the country. We're connected to one. Bright MLS does happen to be like one of the top 5 largest, but we're connected to one MLS out of 550, right? And
is it hard to connect to the other ones with what you guys? I mean, I'm sure you want to expand at some point, but
so since we have the infrastructure and the database architecture is the most complicated thing, right? Like I spent $250,000 just on database structure and our algorithms
stuff
and
that
how
no one
all
ever
this shit
sees,
works.
not the fancy shit.
It is not sexy at all, right? I had to do that before there's anything to even look at, right? But yeah, now that all that exists, connecting to others is not, it's not hard. But that being said, it's like even with Bright, I think it's $1,000 a year for the data licensing.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like a whole hell of a lot until you consider that there's 550. Now it's $500,000 every year just for data feeds, so our database can do what it needs to do on a national level.
So you have to have enough support.
There has to be enough demand. You have to basically have a waiting list in every other MLS area before launching there, because just pulling numbers out of my ass, like to launch a new MLS territory just on the database infrastructure side, we'll probably spend $25,000 to $30,000 on each one just to launch it, So it becomes exponentially
plus the licensing fees and all that stuff too. So
right.
Yeah, so you have to make sure it's covered by the users and
right. Because that's the thing, like so many MLS marketplaces, just think Zillow, Realtor, Redfin, whatever, places that people to go to look for deals. They're not doing what I'm doing with the MLS, right? They don't have data licenses. They're basically just using like an IDX feed. So without getting too nerdy or technical, it's like basically that just means they don't host any of the data from the MLS. They're accessing the MLS database and displaying that information on their website. For our software to be able to work and be useful and beneficial to anybody, we actually have to take that data, hosted in our database where we can manipulate it and come up with algorithms and estimations and all this stuff. But that's what makes us useful as a product, as a tool for someone. You know what I mean?
It's really cool that you did that, first of all.
Thank you.
I always think stuff like that's cool when people do like new things and different. And so even if it doesn't work out, it was still cool.
Well, if it didn't work out at all, I'd be a little butthurt. But the fact that I have had people like with success and everything, especially this early on, like it's probably not even really this early anymore. It's been a while now. It's been a long time in the making.
Yeah.
But you know, the fact that it's helping people find flips, helping people find rentals, like that's gangs.
I use it. I go on there every day.
I love that.
You might be able to see my stuff on your end. I don't know. I go on there every day at least.
Probably
once.
could. Yeah.
So I usually do it in the morning. I go on the MLS. I go.
Did you download the app yet?
I did. Yeah.
Oh,
I do
my man.
Yeah, I do.
My
have the app.
man.
Where's it out here?
I love that.
I think I have it on my first screen here too. Yeah,
One of the biggest, I love it. One of the biggest struggles with the app right now is, so your iPhone, by default, push notifications are turned off. And the only way to get push notifications turned on the iOS platform, you have to manually go into settings in your phone. You have to click like 12 buttons. Nobody's going to do that, dude. Nobody's going to do that. Yeah. But push notifications are super beneficial, right? It's like if you have a buy box that says every time that a property comes up in Pennsville that I could make $30,000 on, and you don't get that notification, it's like, I have statistics on all of it, like, but the reality is like most deals that are priced under market value and would make a good flip or a good rental, they don't make it more than 12 days on market.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And how often is it that you go 3 weeks without looking at Zillow, Realtor, Redfin, or Bright or anywhere else? It's like, it's very easy to go that long, you know?
Especially if you got a lot of other stuff going on, too.
And we all do.
Without a doubt.
Everybody's busy as shit,
So,
you know?
No, I mean, I get, I'd probably go through and do it. I don't know. I guess it matters of like who you are as a person. I mean, if you really are hard up for deals and looking for stuff, you probably will take the 20 minutes to go through all the settings and stuff and get it set up and go through it.
Yep.
So, but it's just a matter of sitting down and doing it. I procrastinate on stuff like that. What's funny is I procrastinate on my life as a like personal, but like I never do. It's like I put everybody else ahead of me so much. It's definitely a strength and a fault at the same time. Like I don't matter at all.
I totally understand.
At all, and everybody else does, and I'll do that all the time. So I run myself down. But
well, look, I got to tell you, so I am the same way, and that can be a blessing and it can be a curse. The way that I found for me that was productive was, dude, that's largely why I built a big company, you know, because it's not about me anymore. It's like I have to provide the work for everybody else that's in the company. I have to make sure that we're bringing in business, bringing in revenue and everything, because if it was simply only me, it would be so easy to be like, it doesn't really fucking matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. I see what you mean, though. Like, you built a business so you could immerse yourself in it. But do you ever put time away for just yourself?
No.
Yeah.
No. That's and I'm not saying that that's good either. But I think a lot of the ways that I handle and process different things, whether we're talking about business or just emotionally processing things or whatever, it's like, I don't know that I do things the right way, but I do know that the way that I do almost everything is productive or beneficial.
Okay.
It may not lead to my happiness per se.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing I've always liked about you, and there's a few others, is and this, it's going to sound bad, but it's not. You don't prepare to go do something.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, here's my idea. I'm going to go do it. You know? And I used to be like that. And I don't know what happened in the past few years. I mean, there's been all kinds of issues, but I have like this book now. I meant to bring it too. But I have like just a composition book filled with like all kinds of marketing ideas for real estate, like way weird shit. I don't know how, and like I keep thinking, okay, I'm gonna get this camera, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get this, and like, you know, I've told you about some of these things I want to do, and I just never fucking do it. I don't know why. I used to be such a go-getter with that stuff too. Like, let's just go do it. So what if you look like a fool doing it? So what if it's different? Just keep doing it, keep putting the content out there, and eventually you're gonna find some people who are gonna like you. you know, a lot of people aren't gonna like it, but whatever.
And that's fine too.
But I have this composition book that I've written over the past year of just different ideas, you know, different things that I come up with. You know, the song that I told you I wanted to rent your studio one time to record the lyrics for the song I want to do, and I have it all written out. It's all done.
Oh, well, we're doing that today, man. Before you leave, you're going to be holding this mic. You're going to be rapping. You're going to put the cap like to the side.
I don't know if I could rap it though. Like I wrote it with someone else, and like she's better at it. I might just have her sing it instead. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. It took me a few weeks to write and keep rewriting it down. I was like, it's kind of fun to be a songwriter. Not that it's more of a parody, you know. It's more of like a Weird Al style in a sense because it's to an already developed song. But you know, that was just one of the ideas I had. There was ideas for listings I wanted to do where I sit out front with the seller in like beach chairs, and we talk about the house and film different things in it and stuff. Like all kinds of cool little unique different ideas that I haven't really seen yet.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have my book and I'll see an idea pop up on, you know, TikTok or Facebook or whatever, and I'll like go cross it out. I'm like, well, can't do that anymore. Someone else did it, and I'm like, that's a horrible thing to do. I shouldn't do that. I should just go do it myself. But then I feel like, oh, you just copied this person. It's like, no, I had it written down prior.
Yeah.
You know, but I do. So I don't know what it is. I'm trying to get that back where, and I say it all the time, and I try and tell myself, like, just go fucking do the idea.
Just do it, dude.
You know, it's like sometimes I try and prioritize the ideas. Like, well, I don't want to do that idea because it's a really good one. Let me find a crappier one first to start with. And I don't. I just need to go film them and do them and whatever and put it out there. And
I wish there was like a better way to like force yourself into that, because I have the same thing with many things very often, right? And it's honestly really hard for me to put anything out because to the core, I'm a fucking perfectionist, dude. I don't want to put anything out unless it's perfect. But the reality is, if I default to like that way and just be a perfectionist, I will never do anything. I will never put anything out because it's never going to be perfect. The caveat to all of that is nothing is ever going to be perfect unless you just put it out there and accept that some people are going to say, no, dude, that rap you put out was stupid. It sucked. You know, like you looked like an idiot. That's going to happen. But in order to get to that level of perfection that you may have had subconsciously in the first place, you have to go through all that anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
I think part of it too was, not to go back again, but like with the magazine stuff, like that was what was funny. I'd come up with all the different ideas for us for the magazine things and the videos that we would do. This is before fucking it was easier with TikTok and all that stuff. But we used to come up with things, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And I wouldn't, it was like I was lazy about it or something. I had it all written down and had storyboards and stuff and just wouldn't do anything. But then my partner would actually be like, yo, here, this is what we're going to go here today, and we're going to start filming this, and we're going to do this, and we'll just kind of make it work. So we worked really well off of each other with that type of stuff. Because especially with the ad sales, like I used to have ideas for how to pitch to, you know, Nike or DC or whoever, and I want to do it, and he'd like just make the phone call and set up the meeting, be like, well, you got to go here today.
Yep.
Like,
here we go, baby.
Just was like I had to be like forced into it. Like, here, just we set it up for you now.
But that's productive though, and having that level of balance with a partner is incredible.
But once I will actually start on something, I won't stop till it's done. So I was just being lazy about getting going on it. You know,
but that's relevant in so many things. People say it all the time about the gym or about with work, with anything. It's like getting in the door is the hardest part, you know?
Yeah.
It's like once you show up, it's like, nah, whatever. I'm already here. I may as well.
I'll just do it.
Yeah, I'm just going to do it, man. Let's
do my 5 burpees that I can accomplish. And I'm done. Fucking burpees. I hate those things. Remember when I first saw someone doing that? I was like, that doesn't look that bad. Literally after like 3, I'm like, fuck this.
Yeah.
This is fucking hard.
This is tough, dude.
I'm fat now. It sucks.
Yeah. It's like I got messed up wrists. I can't even do push-ups anymore, man. It's getting old's fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I don't mind. But yeah, so I just got to go back to kind of how I used to always live. Like I'd rather be, and I've said it before sometimes, you know, I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for someone that I hate. And like I always used to be like that. Like just, you know, I only have a handful of people that I'm friends with, like or whatever, and like no one else really cares, you know. So I'd rather just be me, and if those people like me, cool. If not, then oh well, no big deal. You know, I'm not anybody that significant or special, you know, and that sounds horrible to say, like I'm not special. You know, people are like, oh, everybody's special. Yeah, no, but in the grand
there's a
scheme,
truth on both sides of that,
Yeah.
because you are. However, nobody does give a shit,
yeah, it's true.
you know?
And I
No-
just got to get back to that, like, mindfulness of thinking that way, I
The
guess.
only way, and it sounds pessimistic to say this in this way, but the only way that people give a shit about anything related to anybody is if it benefits and adds value to them.
It's true.
Anybody that's listening to this conversation right now, it's not because of you or me. It's because how can I take value out of what these guys are saying and apply it to my life? How is it relevant to me? I don't think that is selfish, though, because that's kind of just the way that
it's just how
people
it
work.
is.
You
Yeah.
know, it's
So, I mean, it goes back to like with real estate stuff. You know, every deal, as we talked about, is going to be different because everybody takes information differently at different times, and you never know if that person, you know, had a fight with their wife or husband the night before. You know, their kid was really sick and they were up all night, and it's like sometimes you don't know this information. I feel bad sometimes when I call and someone says something like that, like, yeah, you know, my kid was up all night, I haven't slept yet. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to bother you. You said the call at 8. That's why I was, you know.
yeah.
What do you say there sometimes? Just sorry, I didn't know. You know, and I'm at fault for it too sometimes. People call me and I had issues with something before and I take it out on them, which isn't right, but it just happens.
Yeah.
You know, you call the person at the wrong time and sometimes it happens.
See,
You know.
I am sheltered from that a little bit because I'm not answering the fucking phone. It's so bad, man. Like,
Yeah, I do try and answer my phone and respond back to text with, you know, clients, agents, whatever.
oh, text, I'll answer.
I try and get back to people right away with things like that. So I never I only ever ignore my phone if like I'm literally probably asleep, or I might just have left it at my house or wherever in
But
my
see,
truck. and I'm
having
doing
those
something.
characteristics makes you better as an agent. Like, I could never be an agent in that capacity, dude.
Yeah.
I just couldn't, you know?
I don't mind it. I like talking to people in general.
I like talking to people. I hate talking on the phone. Like, I could sit here and talk to anybody that is even interested in real estate because I am so deeply interested in real estate, you know? I will do that all day, every day. And everybody that I work with in business in some capacity, it's all real estate, right? However, I don't want to be on the phone. I don't know and I will do video calls. I'm cool with video calls. Something about being on the phone. I don't want to be on the phone with my wife. I don't want to be on the phone with my kids. You know, like,
Yeah.
I'll be in person though.
Yeah.
In person.
I hear you. I
don't know.
understand.
I am a flawed human.
I
It
don't
is
mind
what it
it.
is.
We're all flawed. So it's just a matter of going through the motions of it.
It's the truth.
So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Let me ask you, where do you see, this is kind of a loaded question, but
Okay. Got a loaded answer.
man, we have so much change happening, right? And we already talked about the NAR lawsuit and everything. Now we got the election coming up and everything. We got interest rates doing what they're doing. It's like now they just came down a little bit and everything, and the jobs reports and all this stuff happening. Where do you think we're headed?
Where I think we're headed?
Where do you think we're headed?
Fuck, I don't know. That is a loaded question because it really could go, especially right now. And I don't like to get into like the politic thing so much, but I feel like it's going to be going so many different directions right now, depending on what happens. And what is it now? 45 days or something like that.
Yeah, it's coming up.
I just feel like it goes so many different ways. And I don't know, dude, you can love, you know, Trump, you can love Harris, you can love whoever. At the end of the day, they're all liars about everything. Just say whatever they can to get elected.
Yep.
So, you know, let's see what they actually go through with. You know, I do think that, and I'll bring this topic up, which I guess is a loaded topic, but the whole unrealized, you know, gains tax on things, I think is a loaded question. And, you know, you get the people that, well, it's only for people making $100 million, you know, this. Yeah, I mean, that's where it's going to start.
Yeah.
Let's go back to 1913 when income tax came about and it was only for the wealthy. And where do we end up 10 years later with that? You know, or whatever, 15 years later with that. It's going to be the same thing.
That's right.
And I think that it takes, and this is just my opinion, so people can argue it all they want. I think it takes away, I think if that does happen, you start taking away from the American dream. And I don't just mean like the whole house for, you know, kids and all this stuff, but America was I think it takes away the competitiveness for America in a sense that we had a lot of foreign entities that would invest into America because we didn't have these tax issues and stuff like that. And I think you start taking away from that. And you take away from anybody coming here and investing into the country, and therefore, over time, just destroys the American dream, which I think is our biggest export. Yeah, we have products and stuff, but I think the American dream itself is actually our biggest export of the United States. They're just selling that. And when you start pulling this foreign, and then you start pulling out because there's no advantage anymore to being here, it's all gonna, I hate to use the word trickle, but it's gonna trickle down and hurt, people like you and me, any hardworking person.
Of course it is.
Real quick.
Of course it is.
And everybody, but it's only going for the wealthy. And that's my other thing too. Okay, let's say it did only stay on the wealthy, right? You really think a government that's done such useless spending on things sometimes is going to appropriately spend that extra money on the right stuff? Like,
not a chance.
Let's not be naive about it now.
Not a chance.
Yes, could they bring in another 100 billion, whatever the number is, a year in this? Sure. Are they going to appropriately spend it, or
no? We're just going to increase spending.
And I mean on both sides. I'm not just saying,
of course,
Democrat, whatever. Both sides, they're all going to misuse the money every which way. They have forever. They've shown that, whether it's a Democrat or Republican or independent, they've all misused it.
Yep.
So I worry about that unreal tax scheme. I think that could actually hurt quite a bit, especially investors and flippers and stuff too, that, can maybe not get to that threshold now, but like I said, it starts at that.
Yeah.
10 years from now, it's down to, you make $100,000 a year. Now we're hitting you too.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. That worries me a lot with how that can trickle out.
If it did
I get the idea,
trickle,
but
yeah,
I just don't think it's going to work how they want it to.
No.
So I worry about that one especially.
That makes a lot of sense.
So, but I don't know. To answer your question, though, to go back and kind of answer, I really don't know where we're going to go with stuff. I don't think we're ever going to see 3% rates again and that craziness. I don't see that ever happening. I mean, not ever, but any time in my lifetime, I don't think we're going to see something like that again. Yeah, I just don't know where it's going to go, really. I couldn't think. I mean, whatever happens, I'm going to roll with it anyway, so.
That is my stance to a T, dude.
Like, okay, this sucks. Just deal with it.
That's right.
And to the NAR lawsuit, no one had a clue, really. Everybody's making a big deal, and then all said and done, and it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Except that a bunch of lawyers got a ton of money.
Yeah.
And I was reading today the article, like with the leftover money all said and done and stuff. I think it was like 21 million people, or people that bought homes in that time period. If you apply, and this is funny too, but if you apply, you get like $20 as like your
victory.
Your pay. But then I started
Meanwhile,
thinking,
the attorney's got like 660 million.
Yeah, it's crazy, and everybody's gonna get like $20 or something. But then I started thinking, well, what if I was an agent on my own flip? Can I apply for that?
I think so.
Right? I forget I was talking about that the other day, but I said the same thing. I'm like, if I was an agent and charged a commission to myself and paid it on my own flips, can I apply for this $20? I mean,
maybe so.
I can make $100 out of this, maybe.
Let's go, man. Dinner's on you.
Yeah.
Dinner's on you.
Anything you want from McDonald's dollar, man. Get you any 2 items.
I'll tell you what, man. I went to McDonald's probably for the first time in years. I hit the drive-thru one day. And man, the dollar menu is not what it used to be.
No.
Man, I think I just got like a double cheeseburger, which I remember being $1.
Yeah.
A fry and a drink. I remember that
$20.
being $3 or $4. Yeah, I want to say it was like $12 or $14 or something, Inflation, baby. Inflation. But I guess the benefit is try to not eat that anyway.
Yeah, I've been trying to cut back. I cook a lot on my own.
Do you?
Yeah, I like to cook a lot. So I just bought a whole new set of knives. Dude, these things they were expensive, but I used it for the first time. They just came in. It's like this Japanese knife. It just came in the other day, and I was cutting through stuff. It was like a hot butter knife, like
really
super hot, going through butter, cutting like a steak up.
That's
or
awesome.
Whatever. I was like, holy shit, this thing's sharp.
That's cool.
Be careful. So, but you're more likely to cut yourself with a dull knife than a sharp knife.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because I forget what it was. The whole idea is that when you have a sharp knife and you're cutting, you can usually do it real, nice and easy, and goes through simply. If you have a dull knife and you're trying to cut something, you have to put more pressure on it, right?
Fair.
So you're more likely
Fair.
to put it and slip over this way real quick
I guess that makes
and
sense.
slice yourself. Maybe not as bad of a slice as you might get with a sharp knife.
Yeah,
but you're
I
more likely
will
to
say,
cut yourself with a dull knife than a sharp one.
the only time that I can think of cutting myself with a knife was fairly recent. Had a guy's trip down Ocean City, Maryland, and I was cutting a lime for my Corona. And man, the knives my boy had, so sharp, like a razor. Like I touched my finger, I cut off like the whole tip of my finger, man. Now, that also may have been influenced by the fact that I was fairly intoxicated, but that knife was sharp, boy.
No, it really is. It's a you can. I'm pretty sure.
Little
you can
off
look it up.
topic.
Yeah.
Going off the rails. But
A sharper agent's gonna do better than a dull agent. How about that? We'll put it back.
ooh, I like that. Way to bring it back.
Try to.
So to reel it back into the agent side of everything, because we've talked about this before, like maybe the NAR lawsuit shit hasn't changed as much as people blew it up to be or whatever. But I do think it's one step closer to extinction for agents.
Yeah.
I don't know what that time
I
horizon
agree.
looks like. Maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 3. I have no idea. But what do you think?
So I'll go back. I'll
Go
make
ahead.
it even more fun for you. I've actually said this before, and I'm called crazy for everything, so it doesn't matter. But so yes, I do agree with you to a degree that it is going to progress to that. I don't think it's anytime soon.
I don't think
I
it's
think
soon.
we're far away from it. But I do agree with you that every little thing that's been happening is a closer step to getting rid of it. I even think the digital lockboxes are part of that.
Absolutely.
And I was saying that, and people were like, that's crazy. They're better. You can keep track of everybody. Yeah, that's correct. They do offer more security. What do they also offer, though, that could potentially happen in the future? We'll just say Zillow, because that's the easy one to hate on. But Zillow comes up with a program where buyers sign up through Zillow, they upload their ID, whatever, they sign some documentation.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah,
Yep.
and now they're allowed to go and access a house through that lockbox. They don't even need an agent to open the lockbox anymore.
Yep.
Now I'm back to just what cameras in the houses and stuff like that. So
It's not hard to
to
do.
your thing with
Seriously,
everything that's
we're
happening,
not far from that.
yeah, oh yeah, that's out there already. I think in some to a capacity. But yeah, I
I could
agree
probably
with you.
launch that cheaper than I've launched my software, to be honest with you.
I make more on it too.
I know, it would make a lot more. So dumb.
But yeah, I to your point though, with just it's little bits here and there, and it slowly takes away more and more. And here's more regulations of things, and here's what we're gonna do. And AI is another one.
It's huge.
I read that whole article about the AI lawyers that battled out old cases and came to kind of the same conclusions in a matter of seconds. That took years for litigation to happen with before. It's like it's only a matter of time that it gets smart enough to phase it out too.
Yep.
And I do think that agents will be around to some degree, no matter what, because you need some kind of human personal touch to deal with emotions. Because I don't know that AI, or any of that could ever deal with an emotion that it doesn't understand, at least yet. But I do think that you do need some kind of personal touch as an agent with a person to talk to.
I agree.
How many times do you call a company and you have to go through the fucking AI thing with telling them what you want to do and everything, and you just get pissed off? You're like, fuck it, I just give up. I'm not paying
sure.
Verizon this month, I guess. Who cares?
For sure.
But yeah, I do think it works towards that direction.
I totally agree.
And on both sides.
That's the drum that I've been beating is like, if you're going to focus on anything, like if you want to improve in any way, shape, or form as a person or as a business person, like the most valuable thing you can do is not investing time, effort, and energy into skills so much. Well, it is a skill, but like communication is what you should invest your effort into, getting better at communication, because skills and information and studying and knowing every single legality or the way to handle the contract law for real estate, or how do I deal with this? Because the information is out there. It's accessible.
Yeah.
What's going to be more relevant is exactly like you said, man, the human interaction of it, communication.
I don't even say this, and this is not necessarily controversial, but people talk about the buyer's agent being phased out. I almost feel like a seller's agent get phased out faster.
Totally agree.
I think a seller's agent has more to worry about than a buyer's agent, because the
Totally
buyer is the
agree.
one dealing, like you just said, with the emotional side, the communication side of things. First-time home buyer never bought a house. They have no clue what they're doing. At least a seller, they went through it. They might forget it, and things have changed, obviously, in certain time frames, but they still have a little bit of an idea of like kind of what they went through maybe and did. Somebody's first time, they have no clue,
Yep.
you know? And I tell buyers all the time when I'm going through, I'm like, I'm going to call you first. I'm going to email you the contract. Let's take, half an hour just to go through it. I'm like, well, how do we sign? I'm like, well, we use I'll explain that later. We'll use DocuSign, but let's go through it real quick because you've never done this, right? No. Okay, let's just go through it. It might, and it's weird because it's like sometimes I try really hard sometimes. I even set timers on my phone sometimes as I'm talking to take a break to be like, hey, I know I just flew through it because I know it really well. Do you want to go back 10 pages? How about, do you understand what this is? Almost like I quiz them sometimes on shit. Like, do you know what the EMD is? And most of the time they know by then, but sometimes like, I don't really understand. What is it? And I'll go back. I'm like, just ask the questions, guys.
Yeah.
I know I fly through it and it might be intimidating to ask a question. I have a hard time asking questions. I get it.
Yep.
But I want you to understand
I'm
what you're
giving
signing.
you the the space to
like you're about to spend $300,000. Let's make sure you understand what's going on here.
Right.
And that's the touch that I don't think, AI or anything has a capability of doing anymore. Whereas, to go back to what I was saying, the sell side, it's going to be easier for sellers just to sign up and do this and just post it. They already do now, pretty much. So while they're worried about buyer's agents disappearing, I think seller's agents have more to worry about. I do both sides. I probably do more buy side than anything, but
man, I'm switching my developers over tomorrow. Forget this investor world, man. We're going after the retail stuff. We're building this out.
Hit up Century, hit up Supra, whatever.
It's going to be
build
beautiful.
it out from there.
It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah,
there's got to be. That's going to be the hardest part, is just the adoption to change, because everything has been the way it's been for so long. Yeah. But you look at any of the massive companies, like there's no question, this is going to happen, Yeah. I don't know who's going to do it and who's going to be super successful, but you can look at Netflix when it first came out and everything. It's like very small market share, right? Very small, because everybody's like, I got cable, I got everything that I need. I got 400 channels, why would I need that? And slowly everybody starts to see the value, and then word of mouth travels, and it's like, wow, I'm saving money and getting more value and exactly what I want. And it snowballs.
I love stories like Netflix. They tried to sell themselves to Blockbuster or whatever it was, and
and they crapped all over them. Yep.
Yeah, and like within 2 years, we have one Blockbuster left. It's the one in Oregon, has a Twitter account. It's hilarious.
Yep.
I think someone just does it. They must have just had a ton of money, and I think they just keep it going just as a
nostalgia,
as a fun project for themselves. They don't make any money. They lose a ton. They're just doing it for shits and giggles to have this funny Twitter account.
100%.
But yeah, same with Amazon. Dude, what are you doing driving around fucking books? Are you serious? You're wasting your time, pointless, stupid. And then it developed into what it did. I mean, I think AWS is really what makes them their money.
Yeah.
More than just selling stuff. The selling thing just is almost like marketing.
But that's the thing. They had to be able to take those first steps and not necessarily fail, but back to our point earlier of being imperfect with what you put out so you can work towards that level of perfection. Yeah. So they had the infrastructure and systems and people in place to be able to scale to that next level that is now AWS and infrastructure and databases and all this advanced shit and AI. And
it is crazy though, because people don't think of Amazon as like, oh, he made all this money just selling other stuff. The dude that's like selling other stuff online. It's almost like that's like a portion of the AWS is what makes like the bulk of their money. I forget what it is. I remember looking at the graph a long time ago. It's like 60 or 70% it comes from AWS. And then there's a bunch of other little pieces of the pie for everything else, but that's like the bulk of their thing.
Yep.
So, and it's wild. Like, I hate that you have to watch like football, like I think it's Thursday night football games on Amazon or whatever, but it is cool when they show the different stats and stuff on the side with shit. Like, oh, he only had a 5% chance of catching it, right here or whatever it was. Like, it is kind of cool, and they show the lines going over and stuff.
I've never seen that because I'm not much of a sports guy.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's there, and they
It's
do it
there.
for baseball and everything else. It is kind of cool to see. I hate that I have to log into like Amazon to do it, but
yeah.
you know, and at this point too, there's 85 streaming services. Like, is this really much better than cable at this point?
Well, yeah. I mean,
buy
now
10 of
we're at
them.
the point that it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, if you have all these subscriptions so you can have everything you want, yeah, we're back at having 400 subscriptions. It's the same as having 400 channels on cable, you know? But that's kind of the path of trajectory for anything. Like, we are at the point of saturation, you know? Everything is now a subscription service. Everything.
South Park did a great episode on that. I don't know if you watch South Park. I just started
do.
watching it again. That Streaming Wars one. Kind of talking about the streaming, but also, you know, in their own way of how South Park does things. I just started watching them again. I love this stuff. I forgot how great they were at doing things. They seem to do more like the 3-part episodes of things now than doing like a show every week. But I forgot how great they were.
It was basically like when I used to watch it when I was younger, like it was kind of my way of getting current events because they were so quick with shit. Like something would happen in the news and their next week's episode is about making fun of the thing that happened in the news. And it's
They
like
do really good at it too.
incredible.
Like I was watching Team America not too long ago. The movie with the puppets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was
hilarious
great.
movie.
You watch it right. If you watch it right now today, like before the debate tonight and stuff, it puts everything. You're like, holy shit, these guys did this a long time ago, and it's still like so like current to what's going on even right now.
Yep.
This is wild.
Yep. Yeah, you know what I just watched? Well, I fell asleep. I put it on and I fell asleep, but I tried to rewatch Idiocracy because I feel like that's where we're at.
Yeah,
man.
that is
like,
a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
The world is just seemingly getting dumber and dumber, you know? But
yeah, I'm trying to keep up with it. I do a good job at it.
It's something, man.
So.
Is there anything else that you want to share with
I don't think
anybody that's stuck with us this far into our wild rambling?
No, not really. There's a lot of agents. I can't think of their names in particular right now because I forget everything when I'm doing stuff like this. But there are a lot of agents putting out a lot of really fun, good content, I think. Not the same stuff, different, but they put out a lot of fun content. I hope they keep it up. I don't like seeing the same things that go over and get recycled with everybody, but there are some people that do some cool things.
That's awesome.
And if any agent needs listing photos, I do that now too.
I love it.
Got the drone license, so I can go do that. Which I did that just because if you get caught without it, it's too much, not worth it.
Dude.
It's like $170 for the license, and it's like 15 hours. So did that, take care of it. And then I just got the 3D camera, which I haven't even used yet.
Nice.
It's in the box at my house. It's been in the box for a week and a half now. Haven't even opened it yet.
Does it have excuse me, does it have like software so you can do a 3D tour or is it just
so it's
a
it
3D
almost
video?
Like, it's almost like it's not Matterport, but it's very similar to it.
Okay.
And you can do it yourself. I just have to set everything up for it.
Gotcha.
So, and I think that's going to be a little intricate with kind of setting it up. And I'm going to wait for a listing that I have where I have 3 hours one day to sit there and mess with it because I know it's not going to be good the first time. But yeah, I did just get that, so I'm going to start offering that once I decide to actually figure it out.
I love it.
I bought it on a whim. I was like, let's try this. And then still
you
not
go.
open.
Well, see, there you go. That's feeding into part of what you were saying earlier, like of the procrastination. So you took the action and bought it and made it happen. Now you just need to put it to use.
Yep. So I'll get there with it. But
and you're going to get your own content out there too, like
I will.
like this rap song, right? I want to hear it, man.
It's good. I think I sent you the lyrics.
I want to see you like in a gold chain and thugged out though when you do it.
No, I can't do it. Like I'm gonna dress like an agent.
Oh
So,
man.
Yeah.
Well, an
Like
agent dresses like this though.
Yeah, this is how I dress for most of my meetings with people.
I know. It's one of the things that I love most about real estate is I'll be hanging out with a bunch of dudes and I'm like, homeboy has a net worth of $75 million and he's dressed like us. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Then I know a bunch of broke dudes that have like literally $27 in their bank account and they're like pressed out, wearing a Rolex and everything and, you know, wearing a nice suit. It's
That
like,
is
come
one
on,
marketing
dude.
thing I did do. I did start this year. I've only done a couple of them, so I think I've done like 4 of them. But I did the realtor stereotype things that I put out there that are kind of funny. It's something it's just writing though. It's not like video, which I know people don't want to read anymore. They just want to watch videos, but it's what I do.
People still read.
But I think I did like the luxury realtor, the investor realtor. I think I did the mortgage guy. Oh, and the social media realtor. So I have like a dress, their music they listen to, the cars they drive. Sometimes I watch like Selling Sunset or $1 Million Listing just to get ideas for it. They're fucking golden for that shit.
I love it, dude.
So I don't really mind their shows.
I used to watch, what was the one, Flip or Flop.
Oh, yeah.
With that dude.
Oh, they're great. Their numbers are way off on everything, but it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
We bought it for 100. We put 110 into it. We sold it for 220. We made 10 grand. I'm like, okay, except for everything else. But yeah, it's fun to watch.
Yep.
You do learn some stuff through that shit sometimes.
Not much, but
a little bit here and there.
You do.
Yeah,
a little bit. You're right.
Stuff.
A little bit.
I learned more about cooking watching Worst Cooks of America
than
any other cooking show.
That's interesting.
Sometimes you have to go back to the basics of stuff and then develop it from there. So that's what I'm getting to with Flip and Flop. There's little things,
of course,
that I feel like they open up something and they're like, fuck, what do we do? And then I'm like, shit, I don't know what you do right there. And then they come up with the plan, and back to what we said, yeah, that other house isn't going to be the same as the one they just did, but maybe gives you an idea of how to correct the wall, correct the foundation, whatever. So,
and to just jump into it and do it.
Yep. That's what I did today.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said,
no problem.
First, second time on the pod. We did it. We made it. And, I want to thank you for coming on. Obviously, I appreciate everything that you do in the real estate world and everything. And you're just an awesome dude to have around. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your wisdom, man.
I appreciate it. I don't know if I would call it wisdom, but it's a beautiful disaster.
Well, look, that's anything related to the crazy world of real estate. And if somebody doesn't think the world of real estate is crazy, they just haven't done enough. We've experienced a lot of crazy stuff that you become numb to over the years, and you're like, no, this is just normal everyday life. But the reality is you have experienced so much more than your average person that maybe just started flipping houses or buying rentals and everything. You've seen a lot of shit, man.
Once you get sued once or twice is when you really know you're out there.
That's true. And sometimes you have to sue others as well. And I know you went through that. We actually should have talked about that on here. We'll have to talk about that when cameras are off. But, again, I appreciate you coming on, and have to have you back, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.